Hi, my name is Gibson, and I'm the co-owner and creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and in this video, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about anxious, preoccupied, and fearful avoidant, and a question I have from one of our members who posted in our members lounge inside PDS saying, how can I emotionally connect with myself and be more emotionally available to myself? So I'm going to read this whole question here because it really touches on an important piece of information that's necessary in terms of healing your attachment style and becoming secure for both the anxious preoccupied and the fearful avoidant. So this individual says, I keep reading that APs and other attachment styles, of course, are emotionally unavailable to themselves. What habits or exercises are there to connect to oneself emotionally? Also, how can you tell you are not connected enough? I know addictions can be a sign of this and anxiety, but what else? So, what a fantastic question. So, first and foremost, part of what is keeping the anxious, preoccupied individual and fearful avoidant as well in this vicious cycle of going into their anxious parts where they feel needy, they feel clingy, they feel, that they are almost like anxious if they're not getting their needs met from somebody else. Part of the underlying reason for all of this is that as human beings, we all have needs. And when we don't know how to meet our needs halfway, when we don't know how to, understand what our needs are, be clear about them, have intentional strategies to support ourselves in them, then what naturally happens is we start seeking outside of ourselves. And then when we meet somebody who holds promise of meeting our needs that are sort of empty and not being fulfilled within us, we latch on to that person. Now, at a deeper level, our subconscious needs are literally a part of our identity. Like we identify. So, for example, if I have a huge need for emotional connection, then, that's going to be something that's really valuable to me. And I become a friend that's very emotionally available. I become a romantic partner that loves to have deep conversations. I become somebody in the workplace who cares to hold space for others. So we get into a dynamic where all of a sudden that's part of our identity at a deep level. Now, if we're not sure of what that is, and if we don't realize that we identify with our needs as a part of our sense of self, then when we meet somebody who meets our needs, but we don't know what those needs are, we just know that we feel really good when we're around that person. And then that person seems to pull away. Part of where all of that anxiety comes from, and part of why it's so strong and so profound, is because it feels like our sense of self is being pulled away. It feels like death to the sense of self. And so part of where this panic comes from is this idea of like, oh my gosh, like I'm losing myself because I'm losing this person, or the pattern's changing. They pulled away a little bit. They didn't call back like they normally do. And it triggers this deep, profound fear. And part of why it's so deep and profound is because it's literally about, oh my gosh, the person's pulling away and I'm losing myself as a result. And who's going to meet my needs? And I have nobody to meet my needs again because I wasn't historically. And then I fear that, oh my God, my needs are going to be unmet and I'm going to be floating through life and it's going to be this really challenging thing. So that's where that panic comes from. And what the healing requires, and this isn't the only way of healing anxious preoccupied, there's a few other key ingredients that are necessary. And by the way, if you want to dive into this, the anxious preoccupied reprogramming course inside of the personal development school and the fearful avoidant attachment style reprogramming course inside the personal development school cover all of this and then some. There's like a 20 something page workbook and all these exercises. It helps you get super clear on all of this stuff and follow specific action steps as well, so you can save time and just go to the point, get to the point. If you want to check that out, I'll put a link in the description box below to our school. You can use the With You coupon code, 25% off. But when you're going through this, part of what's necessary is for you to learn to identify what your needs are and then create strategies to be able to meet these needs for yourself. And one of the big ones, although there are many others, for the anxious, preoccupied, and fearful avoidant are emotional availability to self. And what that really means and what that requires is you being able to develop a relationship where you have emotional intimacy to yourself. Now, what does that actually mean, like tangibly? Well, if you go through life and you're focused on everybody else's feelings and needs outside of you, and you're hypervigilantly focused, for that matter, on everybody else's needs outside of you, who's here focusing on your feelings, your needs, your boundaries? Maybe you need reassurance some days. Maybe you need encouragement. But if you're always seeking that externally, then we've developed this relationship to our external relationships that is one of dependency. And this is where that term love addict comes from. And if we learn to be able to meet, fill our bucket halfway by meeting our own needs at least half of the time in life, then we have the context to be able to develop a healthy interdependent relationship where we give and we receive. And so when we can get into a position where I'm like, okay, I care about emotional intimacy. How can I do that for myself? I can journal. I can meditate and be with my thoughts, be with my emotions, notice them. I can, do work to regulate my feelings when they come up. I can start listening to my emotions as a feedback system to let me know that something's out of alignment and that I need some, to question some stories or to figure out what my needs are in that moment to feel relief, to feel better. And when I can start developing this relationship to myself internally, that is one of that I can go inwards and figure some of these things out and support myself in them. I can learn to process my emotions and be with my feelings. I can learn to self-soothe. Then all of a sudden, when somebody outside of us pulls away or the pattern shifts, it doesn't pose the same type of threat. And therefore, it doesn't, evoke the same intensity of emotional reaction, and situations become manageable. So, if it's emotional intimacy, it's that. If it's validation and encouragement, how can I start building myself up? How can I start validating myself, having a healthier relationship in terms of the way I speak to myself in my internal dialogue? So a lot of these things are what create the emotional availability to self. Then we feel safer being with ourselves. We're not fearing being alone with ourselves because we have no relationship there. We don't trust ourselves to be kind to ourselves in the way we think and speak to ourselves in our internal dialogue. And we ignore our emotions and our boundaries. No. Now I start doing that stuff. I feel good about being around myself and in my own time. I trust myself to self-soothe. And trust myself to look out for myself, protect my needs, boundaries, encourage myself, and be kind in my internal dialogue to myself. And now all of a sudden, I'm in a position where I can be truly empowered and I can feel emotionally available. And this takes me major steps towards becoming more secure. So this is an extremely important topic for both the anxious preoccupied and the fearful avoidant attachment style. And what is also important to go along with this is that you recognize your stories, your boundaries, you set these things in real time. And if you want to do a deeper dive into this and really have clear action steps, tools, strategies, exercises you can do on a daily basis, check out the school. I'll put a link in the description box below. You can check out those courses that I mentioned, the anxious, preoccupied, fearful, avoidant reprogramming courses. We have advanced ones too for you to sort of navigate how your attachment style can show up and differ in each of the 6 stages of a relationship, all the way from dating to honeymoon, power struggle, and then eventually all the way to bliss. And I think that's it for today. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. Hopefully this makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much for being here and for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe if you're getting a lot of value out of this channel, and I will see you in the next video.